We truly live in a world, a universe of unknown possibilities. I want to focus on something that happened recently. We all heard about it briefly, and like the topic of interest, the story came and went. There are still a few people who are discussing it, but for the most part, it has escaped everyone's thought. I hear people complaining all the time about how the mainstream media does not want to headline the important things. But it seems to me that no one cares when they do. I mean, why should they headline anything but death when that's all people want to tune into? They talk about a rock whizzing by the earth. If it's not going to hit us, people dismiss it. Well, I have not. It is something that I think deserves a second look. It is the messenger from afar, the first to arrive.
It was a special day when this object was first discovered. We have been waiting for the discovery of an interstellar object for decades, basically.
Oh, when I first heard about this interstellar object, it was very exciting just from a scientific point of view that finally there's been an actual observation of such an object.
So here is what happened, folks. Let me explain. First of all, whenever they describe something as exciting, pay close attention because it means something. By the way, I know that there are people who put it out there that this is all BS, and to a certain degree, that is true. But I'm telling you all, if you start going down that road where everything is fake, you will get lost, and it is not easy to find your way back. Don't you find it interesting that someone would spend all their time researching something they think is not real, for the sake of arguing that it is not real? Now that doesn't help you, now does it? Does it really help you if I whip out that Masonic calculator and start throwing crazy numbers at you? No. What does that mean? Why do people do that? Is it really that complex? Because it seems to me the more complex you make a lie, the more unbelievable it becomes. You don't have to take someone else's word for it. You can use discernment, something me, you, all of us have the ability to do. Now here's the story. Back in 2010, PAN-STARRS, the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System, located at the Haleakala Observatory in Maui, Hawaii, began to run full-time in the detection and observation of celestial objects including asteroids, comets, stars, supernova, a program that they ran for a good 4 years. You see, the PAN-STARRS telescopes take a panoramic shot of the entire visible sky that can be seen from Hawaii. It does this over and over again, and with the images captured, they can overlap them, exposing any object that has moved out of place. They can then focus in on that object, and their computer system can run the data to find a match. If it does not match any known object in space, it is thrown into a certain category of unknown objects. And if they discover that the object is headed our way, then it gets top priority. They can then upload the data to a network, making it available to other organizations, including amateur astronomers for further observation. Amateur astronomers also have the ability to upload their own findings to this network for sharing. Now, after the success of this program, NASA stepped in and a new consortium was formed for the purpose of detecting, identifying, and observing any object out there that may be a threat to Earth. Now, on October 19, 2017, astronomer Robert Weirich made a discovery, an object on a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning that the object is on a trajectory that is not bound by the gravitational pull of the sun, mainly because it was coming in faster than the escape velocity of the sun. But The sun's gravity was strong enough for the object to slingshot by it. It was first thought to be a comet, then an asteroid. But something wasn't quite right. First, it was coming in too fast, and too high off the ecliptic plane. So high, in fact, that it was the highest of any known object to come in, which suggested that this object was from another star system. Aside from that, it had a most unusual shape. You see, most celestial objects take that natural shape, or try to take that natural spherical shape, due to the fact that there are no other attracting forces besides other celestial bodies. Anything elongated like this is expected to break up due to space weathering, but this object was cigar-shaped, intact, estimated to be about 40 meters wide and 400 meters long, which is about the same size as the Triple E container ship, one of the largest ships in the world. The object rotates on a non-principal axis. In other words, it's not spinning, but tumbling through space. It is also said to be reddish in color, giving them the idea that the layer near the surface may be made up of organic materials, irradiated by cosmic rays. Now, they imagine that there have been many interstellar objects that have come through our system. However, this would be the first one observed, earning it the name Oumuamua, meaning scout, from the past reaching out, a messenger from afar arriving first, the beginning. Now, some people are under the impression that this is a spaceship of some sort. There have been countless sightings of cigar-shaped UFOs all over the world and in space, particularly around the Orion constellation. None of them were moving like this thing. If it were a ship, then the movement would suggest wreckage. This ship is really not the proper shape to be rotating for the purpose of simulating gravity. I think many of you can use your imagination better than that. I mean, people think there are only certain types of celestial objects. They have no idea of what is really out there. Things we cannot imagine. You think it's a spaceship? Go ahead. They want you to think that. They also want you to think that it's BS. They didn't want you to know it was out there to begin with, but someone spotted it as it was heading away from the sun. The thing was already on its way out the door, and they're telling us no other observatory, with all the space telescopes, satellites, they're telling us that they somehow missed it. All they do now is look for these incoming objects, but they missed this one, folks. Do you know what would have happened if this thing hit us, coming in at that speed with that much energy? I've seen the models. We are talking about almost half the planet done. I guess they figured that no one would notice and this thing would sneak by us, but more than one person caught it at the last minute, and so therefore they had to come up with something. This is the first interstellar object seen. It's the first one. And you know what? They proceeded to name it Oumuamua to make sure you all believe it's the first one. There's that Mandela effect again. Folks, it's not the first one. And it probably won't be the last. You see, they are losing their ability to hide things, but they can still confuse you. You think Robert Warwick is at liberty to say what he wants, to have the position he has? Let me tell you something. This guy contacted a colleague at the European Space Agency who said that he too had previously observed the same object. This came out of Warwick's mouth. Now, what does that tell you? They've always suspected that extragalactic objects have come into our solar system, and some have even burned up in our atmosphere, leaving behind intergalactic dust. Interstellar just means between the stars, but the object has to have an origin, so it is also extragalactic. Go look into the work of Viktor Afanasyev from the Russian Academy of Sciences, who made observations of such meteors back in 2006. And there are astronomers who suspect that extragalactic objects like the one discovered come in more frequently than we know, by the thousands. This object, A1 2017 U1 Oumuamua, they don't know what it is or where it really came from. But yet they can alert us to asteroids, some small, some big boys flying by us. Almost every month, there's an announcement of a different one, and they keep getting closer and closer. I find it interesting that this object came headed right for us and decided to turn off after it got underneath us. There have been some explosions in space, and I believe this to be a shard off of something much bigger. Whether it broke off of something natural or unnatural, it was moving at a speed to suggest that it was blown clear of something. Folks, I encourage you to keep track, be mindful and aware of these announcements of these discoveries going back about 3 or 4 years. There is a pattern. You don't have to be concerned, just be aware. We were meant to live out our lives in righteousness, not to sit around here waiting for doomsday. You know, they actually want to chase this object down for further study by initiating Project Starshot, which I will get into in another video. But they are capable of launching a small spacecraft that could travel fast enough to catch up with this object. And something tells me they knew it was coming in advance, and they have already done so. It was a $100 million project. I'm sure they achieved some degree of success. I'm telling you, these guys aren't playing around, and neither is the cosmos. Things are coming, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the next great discovery fits into all of this. I know many of you can feel that something is on its way here. And as we wait on these troubling things to pass, know that there is a better future that is waiting on us.